Hello, it's Katie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be looking at delving into some more wire work and creating this design on a donut shaped gemstone, or a round gemstone with a hole in the middle, which is donut shaped basically. We're going to be using some wire and some seed beads to surround the edges. You could use gemstones to surround the edge if you wanted to, or some normal spacer beads, metal spacer beads. And I've finished mine off with a matching agate necklace. The gemstone donut is an agate as well. Now the size of this is 50mm diameter, so from edge to edge. And you could use smaller ones, you could use bigger ones with this technique, but I thought a larger one would be quite nice so you can actually see what's going on. Now we will be dealing with quite a long length of wire to create this design, so just make sure you've got some space around you. And we'll be using a 0.6mm wire, which is here. So I'll be using this 0.6mm wire that's on here, and some 1mm wire also. So there we go, that's our wire that we're using. I'm going to be using some seed beads on mine. I've got some sparkle pewter lined crystal, so, and they just kind of complement the silver wire and the blue really nicely. And the tools we're going to be using are going to be flush cutters, chain nose or narrow nose pliers, and some 6-step baling pliers. So really nice simple tools. If you haven't got baling pliers, you can use your round nose pliers, no problem at all. So I've got another one of these donuts here, so we're going to go ahead and start making with this one right here. So I'll meet you back again in a second when I've got everything ready. So to begin with, we're going to be taking a piece of the 1mm wire. So we want enough to be able to come kind of 3/4 of the way round, because we're going to be leaving kind of a quarter section or so out. It doesn't have to be exact, but we want it to be enough to come all the way around and have enough to create those loops on each end. So if you can imagine, this is coming all the way around. I know I've got plenty there because it's going well past over here. So that is absolutely fine. Now don't worry too much about straightening your wire out, because we're going to be using that bend. We want it to curve around eventually anyway. So we're going to start making a loop just on one end of this, just so we've got kind of an anchor to work from. So we're going to take our 6-step baling pliers. I'm going to use the smallest one. If you're using your round nose pliers, just kind of go about midway down your round nose pliers. So we're going to turn a loop, and we're going to turn it towards the outside of the curve, because we want to keep that curve in the right direction. So I'm just grabbing and turning until that loop comes and joins the actual wire. So let's just wiggle that out of there. So you can see I've got that little loop there. So we don't have to worry too much about actually shaping it all the way around just yet, but just pull that very beginning bit around and just start shaping it around the outside, but only that very first section, because we can shape as we go. So now we're going to get the 0.6 wire. Now it's going to be a little bit wild, is this piece of wire, because it's such a length, and the length I've got is around about almost 1.5 meters, or up to 1.5 meters, just to make sure you don't run out. And what we need to do is first of all wrap this little piece of wire here. So we just want a couple of wraps just here. So what I do is I pop my tail wire underneath, so that this little tail of my wire underneath, just kind of hold that together, and then just wrap this round a couple of times. So once, it is quite a strong wire to be wrapping with, so just go nice and slow. So 2 nice close together wraps, and push them all the way up to the end there. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a slight pull. So I'm holding this here just to make sure it doesn't pull anything out of the way or anything. And then what I can do is I can pop my gemstone onto this wire. So I'm just going to pop that there a second and find the end of my wire. And I'm just going to put the wire through the middle of my gemstone. Okay. So like I said, it is a lot of wire to be working with, so don't worry if it all kind of gets a little bit crazy just for the first few minutes or so. So we've got our wire on, we've got our wire attached, we've got our wire coming through the middle of that gemstone. So what we need to do now is add our first couple of beads. So I add 2 beads at a time. So these are size 8 seed beads, these are Miyuki seed beads. You might have to pop it down just while you thread these on, just until everything gets a little bit more secure. After a few wraps, everything's a little bit more secure and a little bit easier to handle. So we want to push those all the way up to the edge. We want to hold that on the edge. Make sure that our wire is nice and straight at the other side. And then all we're doing is coming up and wrapping over. Okay, so don't worry if it feels a little bit unsecure just to begin with. It will be fine. Just making sure that 0.6 wire is nice and taut all the way around. This is still going to move for the moment, but don't worry about that. We'll tighten that up as we go on. Now we need to bring this end of the wire through there. Now we want to do that, but not get it tangled anywhere. So just take your time, bringing that wire through, making sure it doesn't kind of get any kinks or twists in it, and just bring it through nice and gently. And just before you move on, just make sure it's nice and smooth at the opposite side too. So we've got our two beads on, our wire's gone all the way around, it's gone up the front, down the back, pull it nice and tight and taut, and then we can add another 2 beads. So basically this section is just going to be a repeat of those few little steps, adding your beads up the front, over, round the back and through that loop again. But just really kind of taking your time and making sure that you get each of these runs very nice and straight. And can you see it there? There's a little kink in there. So just before I move on, I'm just going to get the edge of my pliers and just kind of try and straighten that out. I don't want to damage the wire. I'm just using kind of that edge and just making sure that it's as straight and as smooth as possible. Making sure that this wire stays on that top edge and checking the back before we come through, and also make sure that none of your little wires cross over in between here either. Keeping your 0.6 wire nice and kink free, bringing that through. When you get down to that kind of smaller loop, you probably have to turn the wire and just try and make sure we don't get any major kinks in here. Okay, and making sure this is coming through nice and smooth at the back, and then really smoothing that wire out, because if there's anywhere that's going to have kinks, it's going to be the last little part to come through. So now, just before we move on, I'm just going to make sure that these first wraps are right up to that loop and everything's pulled nice and tight into place, and I can start adding my next beads. So we're just going to continue doing that until we get to wherever we want to stop really. You could just do a quarter and hang it with a kind of quarter section done, or you can continue halfway round, 3/4 of the way around, even the whole way around if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you. So just carry on, just bringing it over and doing all those checks, because there's nothing worse than getting all the way around here than finding out at the back you've got a really horrible kink in your wire or anything. So I'm going to continue all the way around until we get to the opposite side, and I will join you there and show you how we finish off this section. This stage and you've just got that one section left there, I've added my last 2 beads. So I've got 2 beads on this side here, and my wire's just coming round, and all I'm going to do is pop those wraps on, just very similar to those initial first wraps that we made. So I'm just going to pull this in nice and tight, So what I'm doing is I'm holding all this together, and just to make sure I get it nice and tight, I'm just using my pliers just to give me that extra little bit of leverage, and so that I can hold this in place and pull it at the same time. So I've got a couple of wraps at this side, so I want the same at this side. So I'm just going to take that all the way to the back there. So now I've got my matching sides, and what I can do now is snip off these wires. So snipping off that one off there, I can snip off my very beginning wire, that little tail that we've got there, and just make sure that you do give those a nice squish and make sure there's nothing there that could catch against clothing or anything. So now all we need to do is add that little loop on the other side. So all I did was I just brought this just a little bit away, just very, very tiny bit away, just so that we've got a kind of a matching side with the other side, and just a very, very gentle little kink out, just to give me enough space to get my pliers in. So you can see there is that little bit of space just there, just so that it matches this other side. We don't want it too close. Now this has got a little bit of weight to it, so I need to kind of support that as well at the same time as I bring this over and all the way around. So then I can reposition my pliers and bring this all the way around like so. And now I've got matching loops on both sides, and all I need to do is snip this off, and I need to make sure I snip it with the flush side of my pliers towards my work, so this way. So the flush side of my pliers are going to be the end that finishes that nicely. And now I've got two openable links, one at each side, so I can link into the necklace, which also makes it kind of interchangeable as well, because one day you may want it more beaded like this one, and then the next day you might just want to pop it onto some cord, and you can change that as often as you like. So that's how we finish it off. This is just really basic beading, just threaded on and finished off with crimp covers and such. That is how we make this beautiful donut pendant. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. And please don't forget to subscribe, click that bell below, and that will give you notifications when all my new videos come up, and you won't miss a thing. And there's also lots of things over on my Facebook page, on my website. You'll be able to find things about competitions and when you can see me on Jewellery Maker TV too. So I'll see you again very soon.